Good morning.
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, it's evening for me too.
Oh, Keith. Yay. Hi, Keith.
Just trying to figure out why there's two of me. Am I echoing?
I didn't hear
a little bit.
Where's Michael? You go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys, we have such a special treat tonight. We are going to talk to Annalise and Drina. They have been our wonderful moderators in our Facebook group, Meat Sisters. So Lindy kind of reached out to me in the last maybe month or plus and asked if we wanted to start just a support group and a group where we kind of help each other out, list our struggles, talk about our journeys. And it has been so organically generous. And a lot of that is because of Annalise and Drina and the work that you guys are putting in there, and you're being willing to connect in relationship and community. And I big shout out to Jen because she has been shouting out our group, and we're getting lots and lots of beautiful women joining this and encouraging each other. And just, this is a judgment-free zone. We're not hardcore carnivore. We're animal-based or meat only or lion or whatever you want, whatever version, whatever flavor of the carnivore rainbow fits you. But I just want to thank you two for being anchors in this encouragement. You're both natural encouragers. And so I'm just so excited that we get to talk all things Meat Sisters tonight.
Bless. It's a pleasure to serve. That's something that's been big for me, is actually coming into my power, really empowering myself. And then I think when you're coming from a place of empowerment, it becomes quite natural and easy to serve and to give back to community and others. So it's actually really quite an honor to connect with you all and all these gorgeous women. Like everyone's different. We're not all the same. We're not all like, what do they call it? Like the cookie cutter shape, one after the other. We're all unique, different personalities. We're not always agreeable. I make it a thing not to be agreeable and not to be apologetic for being who I am and my own opinions and the way that I am. And I just think when you're standing in a space of authenticity, you can then, naturally just connect with other people and then just put your little bit of your 2 cents forth and to say, look, this is how I've been experiencing things and this is how things are working for me, so.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I want to just echo what Drina's saying, but add the spin of I've moderated in lots of different groups over the years. I always end up, it seems like, serving and wanting to step up and participate. And this particular group, especially for how quickly it's grown and how big it is now, I think we're around 1,400 members. I've been extremely impressed and kind of blown away. And I just keep thinking maybe it's the carnivore calm. But when you get a big group of women, no offense, ladies, I am one, but you get a big group of women together talking about weight loss and like body dysmorphia, and like we all want to get healthier and we are hung up on things because we don't know yet. And it's honestly the easiest moderating I've ever done. It's not without its glitches, like Drina mentioned, but I'm just like continually wowed by the power of carnivore. So yeah,
it can even bring the drama from 90 down to 40 or something of that nature. And we have all our personalities. We're new, we're going to hit stuff, but I love that y'all are such authentic communicators. And so I think that whatever we hit, I just have no doubt. And I think that there is a vulnerability that's coming out. I just saw a post in there that really touched me in the last little bit about like mommy guilt and like guilt and why can't, we can all really relate. Like it took us this long to find this, and what all did we miss out on the decades that we were building up to this spot. And this was an outpouring. There was just post after post after post of encouragement and support of I've been there, and peer coaching. We kind of like coach each other out of that, and we see the things, have the faith in each other that we don't have in ourselves. And somebody bridges that gaps and sees that faith for you. It's been so beautiful to watch.
Oh, it's nice. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
So do you want to share a little bit more about your story Drina?
Sorry, your volume just dropped out for a moment. What did you actually
Something's
say?
going. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your story before we go into anything?
Sure. So I'd heard of Carnivore probably early in 2021. And I, like a lot of people, I think it was actually Bella. It was Bella of Steak and Butter Gang. I saw her first. And I'm so glad I saw a woman first. I'm very pro-woman. I'm very much a feminist. And so it always tickles me pink when women are leading the way and women are showing, like, this is my example because, hey, this is working for me. So this is what I'm doing. Okay. And so I saw her and I'm like, who's this woman just eating meat? What's going on here? Why is she not eating vegetable? This is a bit bizarre. What's going on? And at that point, I had already been sort of, flipping in and out of keto. So, I had already kind of gone in that sort of more low carb and ketogenic type of lifestyle anyway. And years prior to that, I had done a whole intensive 1 month of like a paleo style diet as well, where I really didn't eat a lot of carbs and sugars anyway. Now and then I had a bit of potato or a little bit of dates if I felt like it, with a couple of almonds. But other than that, I was just like, hell yeah, because I love meat. And so, when I look back at that time, and I was really frustrated in myself and just thinking, I really want better health. And I've had a lot of joint issues. So any arthritic sufferers out there, whether it's just your stock standard osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis, my heart goes out to you because I know very much how that is super painful. And having come from a background of where I did ballet for 7 years as well as like a child into my teenage, it wears and tears on your joints. And so by the time I was 19, the first metatarsal on my big toe on my right foot was already kind of like quite swollen. And the way I figured it out, I didn't even think it was arthritis. I was 19. I went into a shoe shop to try some sneakers on, and I could feel that knuckle rubbing on the top of the sneaker. And I thought, what's that? And I thought, oh, there's something in the shoe. No, it was my foot in the shoe. And I just went, oh, that's my bone. And so I went to a doctor and they went, yeah, that's like the start of osteoarthritis. And I was like, oh, and I said, probably the 7 years of ballet wasn't so good for me then. But, and then cut back to that time where I'd seen Bella. I kind of got intrigued, though. I'm not someone who, if I hear a difference of opinion to what I'm currently living and experiencing in my life at this time, I don't just completely shut out ideas. I listen and I watch and I observe. So it took me into that wonderful rabbit hole of Carnivore. Next minute, I've gone from Thomas DeLua to Ken Berry to who's the other legend that I love? That was Kelly Hogan. Kelly Hogan was the next one. And then I started looking at Paul Mason, and there was one more. There's one more that really stood out for me. Amber O'Hearn. I started sort of following some of her stuff as well. And so for those who might not be aware of me, I also have long-standing mental health issues, gut issues. And as we know, even though as the intelligent human beings that we are, we're only scratching the surface about what we understand about microbiome and that mind and gut connection. But there's definitely now that science coming out about the mind-gut connection, and that if you can intrinsically start to heal one, it does that flow and effect to the other. And so for me, it was like, growing up as a child who was always having bowel issues and having to run to the toilet was absolutely hideous. And I was like, okay, so, anxiety, depression, OCD, running to the toilet all the time, and, to the point where in the last few years and the last job I stopped working in April 2018. It was literally like, okay, so for me to actually be able to functionally work again, I've got to find a way to get on top of these crippling bowel issues, diverticulitis, IBS. I mean, it's just painful and horrible. So I watched for a few months, and then by September 21, I decided, okay, I'm doing carnivore. I've got to get into this because this is really important. And I can understand it because I have never felt better than when I eat a big quantity of meat and fat. Being the type of Croatian person that I am, both my parents are Croatian, we love meat and fat. And I'm just blessed that I had two parents who brought me up on so much of that type of food, eating nose to tail. And I think the thing that's actually got me through I'm still an obese woman. I still got lots of fat to lose. I don't care if I call myself fat. I don't fat or skinny shame anyone. We're all different people. Bye, Emily. But, you know, life's a journey and you've got to traverse it, but you've got to be honest with yourself and look at, take into account what's working, what's not working. And so for me, you know, coming to terms with the fact that I'm a real carb and sugar addict, always had that great establishment of the good fat and the meat and those proteins and all that stuff was there, real butter, milk. Okay, I've cut milk out in the last couple of weeks for me. I've really cut it out now because I know it doesn't put weight on me, but it does that weight stall that we talk about, right? So I've just gone, yeah, I don't need a latte with actual milk in it. So that's been like that last real thing that I've just gone, yeah, no. So now I'm actually just drinking black coffee with some sparkling water in it, and that's fine. Doesn't upset my stomach, and I'm actually feeling really, really good. And I met Lindy all that time back in, I think, were you starting in December of 21 back in Steak and Butter Gang?
Yeah, that was my first month.
Yeah.
Obviously, before I even started coaching, I was just trialing it out and camera off, obviously, being the lurker that I was. So I didn't reach out to Emily until the January 2022, and that's when my journey started. But December, it was a bad month. I was literally just there spectating, going, wow, at all these amazing people. I was following you because I didn't know any other Aussies. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's an Aussie carnivore. So I was like drawn to you, even though I never said anything because I was so scared.
Just like quietly behind
yeah,
but I'm just quiet about it right now.
hiding behind the camera. But yeah, I was just so envious that I've met another Australian. And yeah, it was only a couple of months ago you reached out to me. I think I was on the DC's channel. Yeah, the Aussie Live Carnivores. And you're like, hey, it's Drina here. Do you remember me from SBG? And I'm like, oh my God, there's Drina. So yeah, that was so exciting. And now we're finally actually talking. So
That's
yeah.
Right.
That's
right.
So now we're buddies. No, it was so nice to eventually catch up with you. And now that I'm a little bit more open, and yeah, here I am sharing my life on YouTube, and we can finally connect. So yeah.
Well done. Yes.
Yeah.
Look at us connecting and being awesome women in the world. I love this.
Yeah. So Annalisa, do you want to tell us a little about your journey?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I started, like, the first time I remember ever binging, I was 5 years old, and it was on honey because we weren't allowed sugar. It was like a religious thing. So I was a sugar addict. I could only get my hands on the white stuff, the good stuff, when I would go to friends' houses. I would sneak, like, I'd stay awake at a sleepover and sneak into their pantry and steal their snacks. Like, it was bad. And I remember first feeling fat or calling myself fat probably right around the same time. So severe body dysmorphia, all those years that I was thin, didn't enjoy it. Thought I was just the biggest, nastiest, unlovable roly-poly. And I was always dieting. I was always trying all the things. I got down successfully again when I was, I don't remember how old I was. Well, I stayed thin. Let me put it this way. All through my childhood, and then through my first marriage, which was an abusive one, I managed to stay thin because I was actively in self-abuse and being abused externally. So it was easier because I was like, if I gain a pound, I'm going to lose everything. Once I got together with my now husband 20 years ago, Tom, the other half of Meat and Marriage, there was no pressure. So all of a sudden I didn't have a an external reason to stay thin. And so the fat me that had always been in there just came right on out and blossomed, into the, I put on probably 60, 70 pounds. And then I did HCG and I lost it. And then I gained 80 pounds. And then I did keto and I lost it. And then I gained 90 pounds. So it was just going this way. And after those big swings, this was maybe around the time COVID hit, I was just like, that was also right when I started entering perimenopause, like 2019, end of 2019. I didn't know it yet, but I look back, I'm like, oh, I was coming right into perimenopause. I'm 49, almost 50 now. And I decided this is stupid. This is madness. I'm just going to learn how to love the body I have and screw it. I'm going to work on the body dysmorphia. I'm going to overcome the binge eating disorder or not. I'm going to love myself and make some binges if I need to. I did not know. So I used my Untherapy personality model and inner child healing protocols. And I just started immersing myself in helping heal this internal mess. And I was just slowly gaining a little bit more. And it didn't matter, what I tried to watch or how many salads I tried to make sure I ate. I just couldn't lose a pound. And it was just slowly creeping up. So I tried not to care. I tried to work on my mindset and I continued to get bigger. And then meanwhile, my husband, Tom, the other half of Meat and Marriage, was getting sicker and sicker. He had out of control diabetes. He had crazy uncontrolled blood pressure. So he was on like 3 blood pressure medicines, couldn't get it under control. He was like a stroke risk and a heart attack risk and all the diabetes stuff. It was just, and he had terrible allergies and heartburn, all these medications. And he was just getting sicker and sicker, foggier and foggier. When he got COVID in 22, he got even worse after that. And everything was just sort of falling apart. So compared to him, I was like, well, I'm okay. I'm doing okay. I didn't realize what bad shape I was in. He found Carnivore like 4 or 5 months before he actually started. And then one day he just started. And I was like, okay. Like I had done this we were going to do a little 3-week challenge, my sister and I, and do no sugar for 3 weeks. And I was like, okay. And so the day I started that, he started Carnivore. And he just kind of quietly was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and just jump on this bandwagon, but I'm going to do Carnivore. And I was like, what is that? Like I'd heard the word here and there, but I just dismissed it out of my mind because I'm not like Dorina. I'm not like, I keep my options open. I explore things. I have an open mind. Like naturally, my mind is so funneled down into the one thing I happen to be fixated on in the moment. Now I know better and I'm healing and I'm a lot better than I used to be, but still, if it doesn't make sense to my little managerial brain, it does not exist. And about 2.5 weeks in, it was like 17 days into I was done with my sugar challenge at that point, my no sugar challenge, which basically I had just gone back to keto at that point for 3 weeks. So it kind of got the first layer of sugar addiction off. So that was really good. But at that point, my husband was like really seeming different, really excited about this, really feeling like, ooh, he's discovered something. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do after this 3-week challenge. And he was like, well, what about trying Carnivore? And I was like, that's for boys. Meat is for boys. That's not for women. That's not for girls. And I'm like, I am perimenopausal, which I was. Like, I had all the work. I was bleeding uncontrollably. I had terrible mental, I had no control over my emotions. It was stupid. I was like, who am I? I felt like a stranger in my own body in all the ways. And so he found me, Kelly Hogan, and Dr. Elizabeth Bright. So I watched a video by Kelly Hogan that said, when you lose weight this way, you're going to still have butter boobs, nice round. They'll be smaller because everything will be smaller. I was like, okay, want that. And then Dr. Elizabeth Bright said, your hormones are going to regulate and you're going to get all the good things and you're not going to have to go on hormone replacement therapy, all the things. And I was like, okay, well, I'll try it. And I didn't really understand it. And I was like, but I'm still going to do avocado and I'm still going to do coconut oil. And I'm still, and my husband's just like, no, he was just dying on the inside. He was trying so hard not to oversell it.
Yeah.
But needless to say, it didn't take me long to start feeling better. Within 5 days, my hormones felt balanced and I felt like my brain was working again. So it's just gone, since then. So I'm like 10 and a half months in, he's 11 months in. Everything's better in every way. And we just continue to heal. And this is a lifestyle. This is a permanent way of being in the world. And like Drina was talking about, just that bandwidth to serve and give back and help people. Like when Lindy asked me to be involved in this, I was like, how can I say no? Like, do I have time to do this? No. But will I do this? Because priorities are priorities and other people need this. Yes. So I'm happy to be here and I love it. And I have lost, I'm about 40 pounds down. I don't weigh very often because it's not the point, but I'm reshaping and my brain is back. And I am so like, I really am recovering from diet brain, from a lifetime of you only do a diet to lose weight. You only look at the pounds. Doesn't matter how you get there. Doesn't matter what you take or how you abuse your body. You only care about if the scale's going down. And I genuinely don't believe that anymore. Also, I haven't used food grade cocaine, AKA sugar, in 10 and a half months. I don't even like sweet tasting things. Like every once in a while, I'll have a sip of Tom's coffee and he's put some stevia in it. And I'm like, gross. Like I don't even like sweet anymore. And I cannot explain to you how different that is. So I don't even think I'm an addict anymore, which is like, now, like Lindy says, if I could get addicted again, if I purposed to do that, I know I could get there again. So knowing that makes me very self-aware. And I'm not a, what do you call it, Lindy? You're a
Moderator.
moderator.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a regulator, not a moderator. I am an abstainer. I really say that I've been clean for 10 and a half months because for me, that's what sugar was. I would hide it. I would sneak it, even though I had no one to hide it from. My husband was just as much of an addict as me, but I would like buy these little Debbie snacks on the way home and I would eat the whole package. I'd tell myself I'll save these and there's seven little pre-packaged inside the box. I'll save them for a week and enjoy them. No, I would eat them all on the way home. And I'm just like an animal, just like shoving them in my face. Nutty Buddies were my thing. Oh my God, did I enjoy them? No. Was there anything to enjoy? Also no.
It's so relatable though, Annalisa, what you just said. That thing where when you know that, well, you might not be cognizant of it at the time, but so many people who would be watching this or just living the lifestyle and finding that transition that can be a real pull at first where it's like, oh yeah, I'll buy some of this and I'll have a little bit now and then I'll tuck it away and I'll have a little bit later. And it's like, so many of us have got caught into that thing of, oh, I know it's there. It's not going to hurt if I just go sneak one more. And the next minute, one more. And, maybe an hour later, a couple more. Like, it's just,
you deserve it. I would tell myself I had a hard day or I worked hard or I was nice today or I was mean today. Like I deserved it. I needed it. And then I think the biggest lie when I look back at how I behaved and how out of control my behavior was, is that I really believed it was going to make me feel better.
Yeah.
But where did the good feeling happen? Was it in the moment it touched my lips or my tongue or when I swallowed? I don't know. I can't even find what compelled me other than the drug effects of it. And then of course the emotional attachment. I grew up with a very, my mom snuck candy and stuff and she'd have us get it for her and hide it from my dad. So there was a whole thing where I kind of learned that that's how adults behave for one thing, but also just the fact that it was never satisfying. So then it's like, well, maybe if I eat my second one, that one will probably land. That one will feel better. Okay, well, one more. Oh, there's only one left in the package.
It's like you're always chasing that high. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're chasing that hit. And it's like it never comes. It's like people who are chasing heroin or speed. It's like,
right. Like they say with cocaine. I've never tried cocaine, but they say the first time is never as good as the first time. Well, I don't remember the first time. Well, maybe I was 5 years old that I really binged on sugar. Maybe that just like changed my life, and I chased that the rest of my life. But it was not fulfilling. And so then my husband and I get home, and then the whole evening we're just freaking grazing. We're opening the fridge and closing it, opening the pantry and closing it. Hey, Ella, our daughter who lives with us still, like, hey, are you stopping by Walmart on the way home? You want to get us some ice cream? Like, oh my God, we were bottomless pits. We were never satisfied. Finally, you just run out of time in the night. You have to go to bed on all this junk.
Yeah.
And then how guilty do you feel after that? You
Oh my
just
God,
hate yourself. You feel like a failure. It's like, there goes my diet. I'm going to have to start again on Monday.
right.
And it just,
Hey, let's just slide into the
yeah,
weekend and have a good time and relax. We deserve it.
yeah,
And it's also then like what we're talking about now, if we then look at all the poor souls who really suffer with all these full-on mental health disorders as well, which I definitely fall into that category. It's like everything catastrophizes. You get imposter syndrome because of that intense sugar. Like I used to say to Matt quite a few times over the last 6 months, I said, that's insane. I'm like going really well, and then I'll have like a chocolate bar, and I can set my clock to it. The next morning I'll wake up, I'm paranoid. I'm thinking, oh my God, like, what must everyone think of me? And it's just like all this madness in your head. So you've got the guilt of falling back into eating the sugar and the carb. And then you've got that added, like, if you're someone who's living with these mental illnesses, then you've got that added demon and monster that's just going at you, and you don't get a break in the brain. And it's exhausting. It's like the mental gymnastics you didn't sign up for, right? So it's like, well, let's pull that bitch back in and go, there's no space for you here. Bye. I've got enough to deal with. I don't need all that as well. Thank you.
To have the bandwidth to make the right choices and to recognize how insane it makes us to make the wrong choices. And I do believe that doing this together with Tom has been huge. And once he was 100 days in, starting the YouTube channel together also was huge, because that imposter syndrome, Drina, like there have been times where we were just like, kind of just not feeling extra strong, but not necessarily weak. But then it's like, well, but we have something to talk about. And I mean, we could talk about falling off the wagon or having a cheat or trying a chocolate bar at 150 days or whatever, or we could see what happens if we don't. And like to have the bandwidth to recognize that we could decide not to, like literally neither one of us, this is so bizarre to say, neither one of us has indulged at all. I mean, we have our little, like he does some stevia sometimes, I do some heavy whipping cream sometimes. We have our little like, kind of gray area stuff, but it's stuff we
little adjacent, like the adjacent kind of like carnivore stuff that but you know
that it's not, there's
yourselves and what you can and can't do, right? Because this is the thing, if you're not, and this is where I will say to all our newcomers in the Meat Sisters and any newbies, any man or woman who's watching this video, it's like you've got to go with grace and ease on yourself, because these are the learning things. You're going to learn this and how you're having to overcome these obstacles both mentally and physiologically, so that you're not like battling yourself and making it harder, but knowing where that leeway is, knowing that, okay, you say Tom does a little bit of stevia, you do a bit of whipping cream or whatever, but that's as far as it goes. And I do remember you saying on one of your videos, or could have been a video, I can't remember if it was a chat with Lindy or someone else, maybe with Emily. I do remember you saying, we don't cheat. Sometimes people don't believe us or they think we're liars. But I totally understand the beauty of doing that. And I'm getting to that place now. And I don't even look at it like cheating, because it's like I will be sabotaging myself if I don't just eat true to me and what I can do. For me, I can't do the dairy, so that's gone. I'm lucky that I've never liked stevia and any artificial sugars. Like if I'm gonna have a bit of sugar, it's gonna be just a bit of maple syrup or honey. But like that right now has no place in my life. But the only thing I can make leeway for is just a little bit of pecorino cheese, and I don't even have it every day. I might have it like 4 or 5 days of the week. But this is a good hard cheese, a good quality hard cheese, and it's not half a block or a whole block. It's literally like this tiny 20 gram piece that is like this little pretty bit of garnish on the plate with the big fat half a kilo steak, or 4 or 5 fried eggs or whatever it is,
Yeah.
Yes. It's like being able to recognize this is first time in my life. And I really think it was the addict in me that could not connect the dots between what was put in my mouth and what my body did to respond. There was so little connection. I mean, it was really ridiculous when I think back. But like now you talk about cheese, Drina, like I always joke because I was born in Wisconsin, and in the US, Wisconsin is known for its
Oh,
cheese.
yes.
I moved away when I was 2. I don't remember Wisconsin, but I always said, well, that must be why I could eat cheese by the freaking pound before carnivore. Now, I mean, I will get constipated so fast, and I am really like I put that together. Like I can have just a time, like just a couple bites, a few, every few days. Otherwise, as soon as I put that together, all of a sudden that deep need for cheese that I had to have cheese all the time just evaporated because all of a sudden my body gave me the information, and I don't want to be constipated. I mean, pooping on carnivore, am I right? This is like a joy, is it not, compared to where we were before? Like, have you ever enjoyed the bathroom so much? I mean, not to be gross, but like for real. And so if I'm doing something that makes my life less enjoyable, it's just crazy how that drive and desire and, oh, I could never give up fill in the blank, which is the thing we always hear when we tell people we're on carnivore. Oh, I could never just eat, or I could never give up. Well, I didn't think I could either, but you would be awfully surprised when you start to feel your body communicate with you and you start to care and listen and have that conversation internally with yourself. All of a sudden, all this outside stuff doesn't matter nearly as much as what happens when you put it in your body. And that's why I think for Tom and I, because we've really helped keep each other aware, because we talk about it, we share our information, we learn together. Like you said, Drina, like we can do an experiment anytime we want. We are allowed to eat anything we want. And we choose things here and there, maybe that are, like you said, carnivore adjacent or a gray area. But then we decide, like, how do I feel on that? Like Tom knows when he's in a really high stress situation because he's a drywall and paint contractor and it's always like crazy. He'll make his whipped coffee drink with whipping cream in it. And it's really smooth and creamy, and it's got the heavy whipping cream, which certainly isn't going to move the scale, but it comforts him in a way that keeps him out of the red zone of like, uh-oh, we're going to have to go use again. Like, well, let's find the drugs, where's the white powder? Like, so he knows how to manage his emotional connection. Does it make him wrong that he hasn't fully healed his emotional connection to food? No, he just knows his body and knows his limits. And he's been so helpful because I just kind of watch and copy him because I'm just not quite as self-aware because I don't have that open mind. I'm just like, what's the rule? What's the rule? What's the rule? So I just really have to watch. This is where I also, like, even in the Meat Sisters, anywhere you go with carnivore, I divided into, like, in therapy, we talk about the inner manager versus the inner child. Like our inner child is the realm of the body. So that's like, oh, when I eat cheese, I get constipated. Let's maybe not do that. Yeah, we don't want to do that anymore. Like I don't desire it. That's to me where the change happens. I don't desire sugar because I'm not an addict anymore. And I don't feel good doing those addictive things. They were shameful. They were difficult. They made my life miserable. And then the manager is like, how many grams and what are the carbs and what are my macros? And wait, everyone's taking that supplement. Maybe I should be taking that supplement. And like, you see how we get so managerial and we tighten and fixate when, for me, the real freedom in carnivore and the real reward has been dropping into my heart center, which is when Drina's the one that came up with the Mindset May and the Move It May. I was already moving with my rebounding, but when she said Mindset May, I was like, oh girl, do I have things to talk about. In fact, do you have I want to tell you guys, I want to tell you all a secret on a YouTube live. That's kind of stupid, but this morning,
spill the tea, honeybee.
I'm spilling the tea. I don't drink any anymore, so I'm just going to have to make it up and spill it right all over this YouTube live. I've decided what my second book is. I'm going to write a book. I found this title right after I finished my first book. So my first book is just basically my life story up until I wrote it in 2020. And it's all about relationship. It's how I got my first 30 years, and then with Tom and all the things that happened to get on therapy going. But I think I'm gonna call it The Body I Ordered, or
Oh,
something
that's
like
cute.
that.
Oh,
A love story about falling in love with my perfect body, something about, but I think I'm going to tell the story from, the binge eating and and all the things into discovering carnivore and using on therapy to heal all these things and showing up in my body. I think that's a story worth telling. I kept resisting it because I don't want to be a health coach. I don't want people to help me lose weight. Like I don't want to be in that realm, but I think because it is so much about mindset, just interacting these few first days of the month, Trina, when we've been getting on lives and encouraging in the Meat Sisters group, I'm like, I think that's my next book. I think I'm going to write it. I'm going to go ahead and tell the story about my body. And probably just like the first book I wrote, it will speak to a lot of women, that the whole, because, well, maybe men too. I mean, who's to say? My husband had a lot of issues that were relatable too, that I identified with. So there you go. There's my big secret. There's the tea.
oh, I
I
love
love
it.
that. And I think
Yeah.
it's so cool, this type of the way that you developed this untherapy. Like, I listened to one of your videos, and it might have been that same one where you said, oh, people think that me and my husband are liars sometimes when we say we don't cheat. And you're talking about all those different sorry, I'm calling them personality types, but I've probably labeled it wrong.
No, they are personality types. Your inner child has a personality,
Yes.
and your inner manager has a personality. Two
Yeah.
different ones. Yes.
I think it's so cool that you wrote that book, and I want a little autographed copy. You have to pass it to Lindy, because you're going over to
Yes.
Austin, Texas.
Going to Austin, and I've got a whole box of them I'm going to bring with
I
me.
love
So
it.
yes,
I love it.
I will send one home. Yep.
What I'll do is, because we're in Australia, it'll be easier for me just to put the money over to Lindy's account, whatever the equivalent is, and then she'll just cash you up in the US. But anyway, what I wanted to say was, I heard you say something when you were talking about what your second book is, and it made me think. You said the words "a love letter," and you know what I did for myself this year on Valentine's Day? I wrote myself a love letter, because there is no higher love than connecting in with yourself and totally loving and adoring yourself. And all you single women out there, you need to know that you are enough. And when you feel that deeply in your heart and soul, and you understand that actually the key to falling in love with someone else is actually falling in love with yourself first. And this is such a great thing. So I think for our women in our special little group there, I think it's so important that they start to embrace that, because it's not about the way that you look. It's about the fact that you're a human being on this planet at this time. You've come through. You don't belong to men. You belong to you. You are always going to be your number one priority and the first place in your life.
That's huge.
And I'm going to add to that if you're not single, if you are in a relationship,
exactly,
it is absolutely always the perfect time to also learn this skill. I truly learned this while married, while in a relationship. And you mentioned, Drina, being a feminist. The first feminist I ever met up close and personal is my husband. I watched him honor women and treat them as the amazing badasses they are. And I was like, what is this madness? I don't understand what you're doing. And raise our daughters the way that he has raised them. And, I'm gonna cry. So I learned to love myself through experiencing his love. And Drina is exactly right. Like,
I'm about to start crying now too, because it's getting so beautiful and real. I love it.
So, and here's the thing, ladies. I'm going to talk to every lady who ever struggled with loving themselves. There's probably only a couple out there, right? No. I literally learned to love myself partially, or in big part, by watching my husband love me and love our daughters, and just love the other women in his life. And you don't have to figure that out before you can have like the fairy tale, but you can only let in as much love that's coming to you from outside of you as resonates with your own relationship with yourself. So the amount of love that was available to me early in my relationship with my husband was much greater than the amount I recognized. So as I have grown in love for myself, I have been able to then match with, resonate, recognize my lovability and let it in. Because like we as women, we want to give, like, okay, human beings love to connect. We love to give, as a way of connecting. Here's my time, here's my energy, here's my money, here's my, whatever, here's my body. We want to connect. We need to connect. What we forget or don't realize is that giving and receiving are the same thing. They are 2 points on the exact same cycle. So if we can't receive that, which has to happen internally, if we can't believe that we deserve to receive love, if we don't feel that lovability inside of ourselves, if we're racked with shame and guilt, and if we're doubting ourselves and have that imposter syndrome and we live in that resonance, then other people could just dote on us 24/7 and it would just literally split and go around. It would not absorb into our hearts and it would have zero effect on us. I know this because I have lived it. And I just want to encourage you to lean in to working on that mindset. Like when Drina suggested that, I was like, oh, here we go.
We're pretty much like just high-fiving each other through the ether on that one. We're like, yes.
It was go time. I just needed someone to give me permission because and this is why I call my system Untherapy. I don't care what system you use. I want to inspire you. It's kind of like Carnivore. Lindy always says, go zero carb, go keto, go paleo, go vegan. If it works for you, just get healthy and get your life back.
Yeah.
I think the same thing with healing your internal relationship with yourself. Go to talk therapy, do ayahuasca, go get on medication, whatever works for you. I had to pick something that was accessible to me in the moment and was simple enough that I could use when I was upset. Because when I get upset, it's a 10 at all times. And I needed something that worked, and I just kept finding things too complicated, too slow, which the process is, slow, I guess, in the big scheme, because healing does happen in layers, just like Carnivore. There's so many similarities and correlations between Carnivore and Untherapy, and that's where we called our channel Meat and Marriage, because it's like Carnivore and relationship. And that relationship, like Drina said, has to be right with yourself before anything else is really going to click.
So true.
Wow.
Love it.
Just got a couple of questions. We might just grab those first and then we can keep going with the challenges. So Liz, SBG gang, do you have to fast when the group fasts? I find fasting a very personal decision, and doing it with someone else tells me I have to just doesn't feel right. Please advise on this. For me, I'm not a faster. I never have been a very good faster. SBG for me was more about the community, being with like-minded people, because in my real life, I don't have carnivores around here. They're all telling me I'm going to kill myself and, I'm going to have scurvy and can't go to the toilet and you need the rainbow and you need to live, Well, I am living now. I did not have a life before. And being in a community what helped me, and being around other people, hearing all their motivational stories, their inspiring stories, is what still continues to help me stay on track. So fasting is not a requirement, but it is definitely something that you can do if that's where your journey takes you. So how about you guys? Did you do the fasting protocol? And
Yeah, I did. So like Annalisa, I'm just a couple years younger than her, so I'll be 48 this year. And I was probably starting to go through perimenopause probably around 2020, 21. Still have regular clockwork type periods. Like I'm still fine with all that. But what I noticed, what really actually helped me hormonally, was actually the priming, that first priming part that Coach Raymond Nazon and of course Emily and some of the other past coaches of SBG were teaching and promoting. And that's where you're really going to town and eating big at least 3 times a day, or however you can eat, depending. You might have a stomach that's you've had a band or a sleeve or something like that, so you've got to do it more often, like you've had that experience, Lindy. And so and I couldn't stand it for a big woman, and I've never had an eating disorder or anything like that. I'm very lucky. I've done that very human and emotional thing where I've been stressed and then I stress eat, but like never to the point of like binging and vomiting and all those other horrible things that some women and men go through as well. But it was just that thing of getting a bit more of that nutrition from, eating all the food and just topping right up. So I pushed through it. And then what I found was 5 weeks after starting that priming, and then of course it moved into starting to do the OMADs, and then proper 24-hour fast, and then 48. So I followed it for the 3 months. However, I'll get back to that in just a moment about why it wasn't good for me personally, not the priming bit, but the fasting bit. But I'd only started to have a couple of like hot flushes, or as some of the American people I think call them hot flashes, same thing. I started to experience that in the very mildest way at like the start of 21. I haven't had a hot flush since the first week of December. That's how good the priming worked on my body personally. Now, when it came to the fasting for me, because I have such long-standing gut issues, and I'd only sort of started Carnivore in September, and diarrhea is the kind of horrible symptom that I always got with just my IBS and with my flare-ups of diverticulitis. It was always, I've rarely ever been constipated in my life, but the horrible diarrhea, that was just, again, it was always like, oh my God, I have to live my life by where is the next toilet? This is how horrible it was. And so for me, the fasting element itself was fine because it gave me that clarity. But when I came to the refeeds, my whole body, my torso would just distend painfully and everything would rush through me. So then I wasn't able to properly, and even if I broke it slowly with some broth and whatever, so for me it was nice for like the clarity of mind and how it sort of nutritionally got my hormonal stuff kind of cranking a bit better. But I would probably, for me personally, I will revisit it when I'm feeling more healed. I still feel like my gut's healing. I still feel like it's healing. So at the moment, my sweet spot is not that sort of intentional type of fasting, but I'm trying to do this thing where I'm eating in the daylight hours. And I found for me personally, I'm good if I can have my first meal between about 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. And then I have my last meal usually between 4:30 and 7 p.m. I've given myself a bit more leeway there, but I'm trying to do it within that daylight time. And then what happens is I naturally have that sort of big intermittent fast window open up from that last meal of the evening until, the next day. It's usually more than 12 hours. And then when I'm doing my little workouts that I do, I go and I do my workouts in the morning before I actually have my first meal of the day, because I find it just helps more with the autophagy and just, getting everything pumping and flowing. And, I've always got water. I'm not like completely dry fasting or anything like that. So that's just me and my little take on how fasting has been for me. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I went through, so in the second round of really of the last 20 years of trying to lose weight, and I did keto. I also discovered fasting when I discovered keto, and Dr. Jason Fung and a bunch of other, I just dove headfirst down that rabbit hole. I started out with a 13-day fast.
Wow.
And I only ended at 13 days because I was having such terrible racing heart because I didn't know about electrolytes. I was just drinking plain water. I wasn't doing any salt. And when I finally decided to eat, I ate like 4 kielbasa's, they're just like sausages.
Yeah.
I just ate them all at once. And I mean, I didn't. So basically, long story short, I spent 18 months doing keto and fasting, but I never feasted. I fasted a lot. I over fasted, and then I would never feast because I discovered during that period of time that when I was not eating, I've heard Emily talk about something very similar. When I was not eating, I wasn't using. There was no addiction switch turned on. But the second I put food in my mouth, it was on, and then I was fighting it. Do you all have Halo Top in Australia? It's like a keto ice cream. I should have
I've not
bought
heard
Heard
of
of
it.
it.
I should
No.
have bought stock in that stuff because I went dirty keto. I was like, what can I have that's allowed but makes me feel like I'm binging on my favorites? And ice cream has always been my favorite. I mean, now I'm just like, why? What did I even? It's funny, but so now for me, Liz, I felt very similar to you when I saw the calendar. I was not. For me, it was very emotional. Like physically, I didn't have like Drina's struggles with the bowel issues and stuff. I could normalize after refeeding pretty quickly, but it does something negative to my mental health when I deprive myself at this point. So I just know I've tried a few and I've done a few little ones, some of them accidental, some of them more on purpose. The more on purpose I am, the more I have that like recoil or rebound effect that makes me want to use. Like I deserve to have food. Like so my emotional state is still not healed enough for me to go on an arbitrary fasting schedule just because someone gave me a piece of paper and said try it out. Like does not work for me. It activates all of the negative feelings of powerlessness and lack of worth and all the stuff that led to all the stuff. So I know that. I also know that as a perimenopausal woman who is now, I've been without a cycle now for, I don't know, going on half a year, I guess. So I'm kind of heading into that later stage of it, into actual menopause. But I have heard several doctors talk about that fasting while going through that change is stressful on your body. And so just being aware of that and paying attention. This is another, like Lindy's talking about, like engage in self-awareness. Is this working for me? Is this a good, this experiment? What are the results of this experiment? And then what am I going to do for me moving forward?
That's a really good point, actually. And I think definitely when we're looking at any of our people who are coming through from the eating disordered background, that side of mental health, I think that's a really important thing to be just very cognizant of, even if it means like just talking to a good friend or a partner or a parent that you love and trust and have a good relationship with, and just say, hey, if you notice any strange behaviors with me start to pop up again, or write it down so that you're aware that you're not jumping into something then that can, switch and become unhealthy, back to that sort of eating disordered way of treating yourself and going through that, because that can be a big one. So it's just good to be aware of it. So you're not hurting yourself. Yeah.
Because I used food, especially sugar, to abuse my body, but I also used fasting to abuse my body. So here we are, and fasting is being presented as a healthy option, and it is.
Yeah.
And it is not for me yet. Not in that intentional way, because when I've tried to get on the schedule, I just feel myself. Now I'm weighing all the time again. Now I'm obsessing about my size. Now I'm expecting my body to produce a better result rather than honoring whatever stage of healing I'm in. So yeah, it's the eating disordered mind that's still healing. And I don't know how long that will take. But since I can remember binging at 5 years old and now I'm almost 50, I would imagine 45 years of actively doing that probably is going to take just a skosh more time than 10 and a half months. So, and I'm here for it. Like, this is what we're doing now. Me and my body, we're here for the duration. So I don't put any deadlines. I'm not in a rush. Yeah, we're going to Austin and we're going to meet Lindy at KetoCon. If she doesn't think I look amazing, I don't care. I want her to love me, and I would love for her to be impressed with me for some reason somehow. But we're going to connect our hearts. And so I'm not going to, I'm not trying to squeeze into a smaller, I even found myself, I found at Sam's Club, which is like a big box warehouse kind of store. They had these really cool jean shorts I loved. And I found myself wanting to buy a size smaller than I know fits me right now, because I was like, oh, I could fit into these by KetoCon. I'm like, why? So there's still a lot there that's coming up in layers. It doesn't mean I'm backsliding. It means another layer is coming. And in therapy, we say it comes up to come out. I imagine it like on a serving tray, like whatever your trauma is, like a little piece of it will just pop onto this tray. Am I going to deal with that now, or am I going to stuff it down and deal with it later? So
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Just one more question here from Shelley. Ladies, how did you go mentally? I have been animal-based for nearly a year now, but I keep having chocolate and carb binges due to trauma. I'm now getting help with the trauma, but I still fail. Have you got any advice for Shelley? We just had her in our stream earlier, so it'd be interesting to see if you've got any advice with the therapy or any little tricks.
So I will say, Shelley, that this is like the entire point of why I developed untherapy, because I wanted to regain a sense of control over me, but not control to fit someone else's like image of what I'm supposed to be. So it's a fairly simple. I mean, I could teach you right here and right now if you ladies think it would be helpful. I could show you like the concept of it. Also, we are going to be doing, for the Meat Sisters in particular, a Zoom inside the Meat Sisters group. Sorry guys, but your woman can learn all the things and bring you the information. Or we can do it on our Meat and Marriage channel too. We can teach that. But I have it's called bliss tapping, and it's a healing protocol that, remember I said when something, we talking in therapy, when something comes up, it comes up to come out. Meaning when you have that trigger that makes you want to binge or have chocolate or whatever, what's actually happening when you think about these two members of our body that have their separate personalities. We also have the inner guide, which I think was responsible for showing me Carnivore. Thank you, inner guide. But when you think about your inner manager is the one that learned how to help you survive whatever your inner child was struggling with growing up. So growing up, I felt like who I wasn't right, wasn't good. And so I would eat, I would binge to feel better. That was a managerial coping mechanism. So we shouldn't be mad at our manager for wanting to use the coping mechanism that's gotten us this far. But what we can do is when we feel that urge, we can then imagine that waiter with the tray and the little the desire pops up on the tray, and we can go, oh, that's ready to be dealt with. That's something that is presenting in the form of craving a chocolate bar, in the form of whatever it is, wanting to something that you had determined previously you didn't want to. Our true desires come from our inner child, but those cravings and those trauma responses where we're trying to adapt and cope and cover and protect, that's all managerial, and that's where the healing comes in.
That's so true. And I'll add that our brains are fascinating things. They really are. They'll often go into, I mean, there's so many things we could look at, and I can't remember the names of all these different things, but roughly it's like your brain will do protective things to try and make things a bit softer and easier for you. And part of that will be like, oh, come on, just have that chocolate, or, do this and do that. And it doesn't sound like it's a protective thing, but it's kind of like, I'm trying to be comfortable on all levels. Please just have that thing, because then it's going to just like quieten me down for a bit. But like Annalisa was just saying, it's like, these things come up to go out and when I've done a lot of like metaphysical and healing, light healer type of work. What is it, like pranic healing, multidimensional quantum healing, and more recently theta healing. And I kind of have this saying of like, it's time to release the issues from the tissues. So as we are onions and layers and stuff are coming up, you've got to kind of just go, forget everything else. Let's look at this one thing. Almost can treat yourself like a baby, but like kind of coming from a wise woman perspective, but like the baby part of you that you're holding is that inner child that you're giving that love and compassion and kindness to. And so it's like, you know, you can gently dig deeper, like, why am I feeling this? And, you know, where is that core wound, or what you can go just gently in that one little aspect of how it can come up and trigger you mentally, or trauma. And like our tissues, our physical being does hold on to trauma. And I've seen it through and through. I've also got a massage therapy background. So for instance, we'd see people come into the clinic and they've been in car accidents. Some of them have been in multiple car accidents. And what happens is they'll come in, have this amazing massage, and they might relax and release all that from the body in the moment. But then because of the holding pattern that they went to at the time of when, you know, they had to like freeze and like respond physically, it's like their muscles somewhere go back into that bizarre holding pattern and get tight again. So sometimes it will take a little bit of time, and this is where you got to be kind to yourself and forgiving, because, you know, forget perfection. It's about learning. It's about learning resilience and finding maybe something like an anchor, something that, you know, like I set a limit and I put that on my fridge, and I learnt that from Coach AJ. And so, you know, when I'm having a hard time, I can go to that and remember, actually, I am in control. And I hear you, sad little, you know, this thing that's coming up and gnawing away like an earworm kind of a situation. But I can also be gentle about that while I'm still being a bit stoic and coming from my wise woman self, and knowing that, hey, if I do eat that chocolate, or if I do other things that are more nefarious, that are going to be self-sabotaging, it's not going to make me feel good in the long run. It's not going to really make me feel that good now either. So it's kind of like trying to navigate with yourself as gently as you can, and learning what's positive and what's going to help you stay in that positive mindset. And another thing I've found really helpful for myself is when this stuff comes up, sometimes I just fully allow myself to cry, even though I'm not going to give in. And I will just cry and cry and cry, because it's like, and it's almost like this little upset, angry kid. And it's like, I just want to eat that chocolate, you know. And it's like, it sounds crazy and stupid, but it's like, sometimes you have to. And sometimes it's not about food. Sometimes it's other things that will get triggered that might then sort of lead back to wanting to still, you know, at some point then take a bit of something that's not really going to be good, and it's not good for my mental health or physical health. So did that sound too convoluted? I was trying to kind of tie it in with how, like, you know, the brain can be funny, it can be protective, but also like in a weird way trying to protect you.
I don't think that's weird, and I don't think it's convoluted. And I think what this comes down to, and this is a woman problem, it's a man problem too, but it's really a woman problem, where we learn so early in life to leave our bodies. And what Drina's talking about is learning to re-embody ourselves, learning that when we are faced with something like that, like, now I'm craving something, or now because this thing happened, I feel triggered to now go do something I had decided not to, or put something in my mouth that's going to hurt my body, because we're so used to leaving our bodies while things are happening that are hard, that learning to come back down into our bodies, which I think this is part of where Carnivore is so incredibly healing, because it literally makes it more comfortable to do that, to get in our body, because our body doesn't hurt so much. And that manager, the way we say it in therapy, I hope it's okay to be using this phrase, this terminology to explain, because I don't know a better way to do it. But our inner manager is like AI. So the only output the manager gives is stuff that's already been input. So I learned at 5 years old that when I was sad, when I was happy, when I was excited, when I was scared, when I was feeling ugly, when I was feeling pretty, you celebrate by eating, or you grieve by eating. And so I learned this connection. And so that's like Drina was talking about, if I start to crave that, I feel this is the solution, because my manager is screaming at me, this is what works. Do it quick. Because trying to protect the inner child. We don't, in therapy, we don't have a concept of like the bad ego or you need to kill any part of yourself. Like all of it matters. And I even love, Drina, where you were talking about, like, we would call it the inner guide, where if you can go deeper and recognize that there's a part of you that's that wise woman you referred to, that is always chill about whatever decision we make, but also always available to help us make an even better one without all the flack of this like previously programmed inner manager that's like, hurry up and eat the chocolate so everything's better. It breaks the cycle. It gives us that tiny little moment of introspection to recognize, which I never had so easily as I do since Carnivore, to go, oh, but if I have the chocolate, what will happen? I never asked that. It was want the chocolate, get the chocolate. Even if I had to drive across town to get the chocolate, somehow I went into like a fugue state and teleported from my position to the chocolate in my mouth. There was no gap because my brain went into obsess and fixate. And I never got back down into my inner child heart of what I really desired, or my inner guide for that matter, who's going, I have a better way if you will only just notice. I'm giving you the better way. I couldn't hear it.
So true. So true. You're welcome, Shelley. Yeah, it's good. It's good to talk about these things because, you know, it's part of what we're doing is really important for both mental and physical health. And sometimes it's really hard to talk about these vulnerable situations where, you know, you can sort of start to get in your head a bit too much about it and look at the next person and go, shit, why are they doing so well? Why am I struggling so much? And they seem to be keeping it together and not going and grabbing the chocolates. And, you know, everyone comes into this with a completely, you know, you're all starting in different places. So don't beat yourself up. Become your best friend and know that it's all good. It'll all work itself out. And you've got your sisters to support you if you're part of Meet Sisters. And if you're not, you'll have people in your life that will be there for you and will be cheering for you. Find the people. And that's the thing. If you're really struggling and don't have a lot of support, I really just suggest that even if you have to talk to your partner, like my partner, he doesn't do carnivore, but I've had chats with him and I'll say, hey, when I'm like this, or if it's like this, can you say this or can you do this? So you can even like start to kind of preempt, like, hang on, excuse me a moment. You can kind of go, okay, I know what my patterns of behavior can be like around this at this time of the month or whatever it is. When I'm starting to say, oh, I want this or I'll do this or whatever, can you just sort of step and say quietly and calmly, yeah, I love you and I'm actually here to support you right now. But you've asked me to say this. So remember, I'm saying this because you... So it's kind of like you find little ways to set yourself up, whether it's something like an anchor, like I wrote, you know, I set the limit, and that's an anchor for me. I can see it. I can physically touch it if I want to. And it reminds me, and it sits on my fridge door. And I specifically put it there for a reason that, you know, if there's something Matt's got in the fridge that I know is there and I haven't had a proper meal yet, I know I'm not going to be opening that fridge to reach for his food. No. I'm cutting my steak and cooking that. I'm taking the eggs out. I'm taking a chunk of butter and a bit of cheese. I'm not going to falter because I'm putting these little things in place that are there to help me on my journey, even if it's a bit difficult, even if I've got to get more raw and vulnerable with myself at times and allow these things to come up and out. Yeah. So just keep going with it, you know. Yeah.
Linda has a question. Body dysmorphia. How do you each deal with it? My body hasn't changed that much, but I struggle to make plans or work around the house as I used to barely be able to move. Feels wrong to try.
You go ahead, Annalisa. I feel like you've got a lot to...
Oh, I was hoping Lindy would go first this time. Is that okay?
Yeah, sorry, Linda, you're not part of this conversation. It's just
No, you go for it. I don't know. I still struggle with it myself. So, you know, I don't like what I see a lot of the time, and it is very difficult. And I try and just think, you know, I need to. It's all about that loving yourself. I have never loved myself, and this is my struggle now, is trying to love myself and accept myself with all my faults, You know, it's been a huge journey, and I'm really proud of myself for how far I've got. But I'm never going to be perfect, and learning to accept that it's a difficult process, but I'm getting there. But no, definitely love to hear your guys' takes on this.
Well done. I want to just stop and say, well done, Lindy. Like, honestly, you are a magnificent woman. And yeah, I'm getting emotional now. I don't want to cry. Yes, I do. No, I don't. Yes, I do. I think it's fantastic. I think it's really good to, to just talk about these things. And I think sometimes even just talking about it to someone, this will be my little bit, and then I'm going to let Annalisa go for it. I think sometimes actually just wording it, because sometimes we can't even, some people struggle just to even get the words out. Like, I'm really not liking what I'm seeing and experiencing right now, So sometimes just finding someone that you can chat to about these things, and then just gently, look at different ideas together, because everyone's going to have a different idea, as to how you deal with that. It's something I'm less familiar with, so I think I'll leave my bit at that. And yeah, go ahead, Annalisa.
And it has been a lifelong friend to me, Linda. Body dysmorphia has just been like another limb. And the fact that sometimes I do like myself fully, or as fully as I can, I'm sure it will continue to improve, is shocking. And sometimes it's just really discombobulating. But here's what I want to say about how we use Zen therapy, because I've used it so much for this. So when it feels wrong to even try to do things differently, it's because your manager is telling you the same thing it was telling you with the chocolate bar problem. Like, don't even bother. It's not safe to make plans. You don't have enough energy to move around or do, you couldn't move before, you still can't move. Like, our manager, again, operates off of old information. So we spent this whole amount of years, whatever it was for you, thinking these things about yourself. And it becomes a filter through which we see all of our memories. So the way the brain works with memories, super great. Every time you revisit a memory, you change that memory. So whatever lens you're wearing, so for instance, my lens of I'm fat, ugly, and stupid, everything that happened to me, even the really great things, I'd revisit those things with my fat, ugly, and stupid lens on, and I would ruin all the good things that were trying to show me who I really was and trying to allow me to heal through that. So until I got a handle on that, until I had an actual protocol, for me, I'm very like tactile, and I have to like do something. I can't just think about, like, meditating for me had to become an activity. So I developed, in therapy, our meditation is extremely like hands-on. We move, we do something when we're meditating, because I could never just sit in the privacy of my own mind and accomplish anything. I'd be like zoom, zoom, like ADHD. So we literally take that it feels wrong to try. Okay, now we've got the waiter, he's got his platter, and that's what's sitting on the platter. That feeling of it feels wrong to even try to make plans, or to believe I can do things I can't, or to move around, or whatever. That's what's up. You take that, and like Drina was saying, just noticing that, just the fact that you put that comment out here for us to discuss, that you noticed it, is everything. That is this, nothing happens until you identify that you have an unprocessed emotional problem. So learning how to process, and again, I think I'm not going to teach everyone here. I think it would just be too bulky. But if you will come, if all the Meat Sisters will come, and Linda, if you're not part of Meat Sisters yet, you should join. It's free. But on May 15th, I'm going to teach you how to do this. And it's not hard. It's gentle, and it's like Drina was talking about, with being gentle and easy on ourselves. It's the thing that's on the tray, the thing that came up on the waiter's tray that says it feels wrong to try. And that's the one little thing. We zero in on that. When did you feel that? Today or yesterday? Like, when did you feel it in the last 24 hours? That's what we call our call to adventure. We use the whole hero's journey, Joseph Campbell thing, but we use that as a call to adventure, and we adventure around that. We just deal with that one moment. Let's say you needed to vacuum the floor, but your old way of thinking was like, I can't. I don't even have enough mobility. I don't have enough energy. I'm going to have to make dinner later. If I vacuum, I'll be out down for the count for the rest of the day. I'm just using an example. I don't know you. But you take that feeling of, I can't get up. I don't have enough oomph to vacuum the floor. And that's what it's a whole emotional freedom technique tapping protocol. Very simple. You say a few phrases as you talk about that particular feeling, which is what came up on the tray, and that releases it from you. You are no longer holding that piece of the prison bar. And if you do that, you don't have to do it every day. You don't have to do it with everything that comes up. But as you start to recognize that there's always something on the tray, literally always something on the tray, then you can just begin peeling these layers of the onion in very gentle pieces, and you don't have to re-traumatize yourself. That was like my number one thing. If I'm gonna develop a healing protocol that I can use on myself, it can't freaking re-traumatize me. I can't be going down in and opening up core wounds and bleeding out on the floor with no one around. If this is going to work on me, by me, when I'm upset, it has to be gentle. It has to be easy, and it has to make my inner child feel like it's worth doing. So come May 15th, it's going to be great.
That's awesome.
So did you want to talk a little bit more about these challenges that we have on in Meet Sisters? So there's a movement May and the mindset May. So who would like to speak about those?
Drina, why don't you lead off, because you were the one that came up with the ideas. So talk to us about your idea.
All right. So I just thought, I don't even know how it all started. I think it started because we were in our little chat talking amongst ourselves. Look, someone did inspire it, but I'm not going to get into that. But I just felt like we need to get women really to make everyone feel like it's inclusive. Okay, so it doesn't matter where you're starting from. It doesn't matter if you've got a physical disability or a mental disability or whatever it is, because the point is we're all starting at wherever we're at. You can't avoid that. You got to accept that that's where you're at, and you can always improve and better yourself. So it doesn't matter how heavy and dark your mindset has been. It doesn't matter how big and heavy and sore your body has been. You can always find a way to start to turn things around. Carnivore is fantastic because it's fuel for both the mind and the body. And when you have your mind and your body being more cohesive and starting to heal, then you can start to heal more holistically as well. So I just kind of felt like, well, May, that's a good one. Yeah, mindset. I'm really attracted to people who have got positive mindsets, and the ones that come to me in my life that turn up ugly with an ugly mindset, they can go that away. Thank you very much. So, and I just thought, well, yeah, like, you know, we can definitely talk about all sorts of little tools about what we can do to work with our mind. And we can also encourage women to start to, embrace themselves and their bodies and be part of it, not just, I'm going to sit here quietly and just watch everything. No, we actually want you to get involved. If you want to post a video of yourself in the group talking about, what you have found helpful, do it. It's not about us and what we're posting. It's about everyone and how you're learning and what you have found helpful in your life, and bringing that to the table, because the more we open up and share, the more that everyone else benefits from it as well. So it's not about one person getting all the gains and the benefits. It's about everyone getting that opportunity to go, oh, this is really cool, I'm going to try that. Or, hey guys, have you heard about this? Or, and I just think you know, with our beautiful physical beings, we do have to move them. We weren't made to be stationary animals. We were made to move. And I've said it before in a video that I posted in the group. If your starting point is literally just standing up and down from your recliner, from your chair, then that's your starting point. If doing that one little activity of standing up and down, or, you know, sitting down, standing up, sitting down, standing up, starts to get your heart going and your breathing intensifies, that's good, because one, you're working out your heart, two, you're working out your lungs, and you're also working out, you know, all of the muscles that it takes to stand up and then sit down, stand up and then sit down. So we're starting from somewhere, and for the rest of us, it might be a bit more intensive movement and exercise. It might be something more peaceful and relaxing. So, you know, like, there's always something you can do. Even if you're just dancing in your chair, you get your arms pumping. Woo! Hey, that's moving. So there you go. Yep.
So when Drina talked about the move it, May, I was like, I'm already doing that, because Lindy, for those of you who don't know, I've heard a few, like Jen from said how, even mentioned in one live, she's like, there's this woman in Meat Sisters that bounces on the rebounder every day. And I was like, oh my God, am I the rebounder lady? Oh my God.
Yes,
But Lindy's the one that got me rebounding. And she actually she convinced Tom, is really what she did, by talking about it. And so then he bought the rebounder, because I don't buy stuff for myself, especially like a whole new way of exercising. But she was so excited. So I told him, so he bought it. So he started using it. And then I started using it. And when I get sold on something, I really get sold on it. And then she's like, well, can you participate and be a little more visible in Meat Sisters and, you know, post about your bouncing. And so then now I post every day, because I do something every single day. And there have been a few days when that made the difference. So what Drina's talking about with posting something, maybe that can help be an accountability for you if it works, not as a forcing thing, but like if that motivates you. I love posting my videos. It's fun. It's fun to see people thanking me or asking questions or offering their ideas of what they're doing with their rebounder. So, you know, if that works, like, I'm just going to back up for 1 second. When Drina was talking about find some support, the Meat Sisters group is free. So you have no excuse if you are a woman. Sorry if you're a man, you're going to have your wife join or whatever. But I've seen some posts in there where there's one particular woman, I can't recall her name at the moment, but she's like, okay, ladies, I'm going to need help with accountability. I'm going to do this event and it's going to be really hard for me to stay carnivore, but I want, and just the swarm of supporters, we got your back, you can do this, check back in, let us know how it went. And then she'll comment below and she'll say, I made it, and I did, and everybody's celebrating. Or even if she didn't, be like, it's okay, you know, you can do this next time, and what did you learn, and how can we support you? Like, wow. So the whole concept of this is to be a group of mutually giving and generous supporters. So that was the move it part I was already doing, and it just made me double down. And so I'm continuing to do my bouncing every single day. And then for the mindset, this is the part, like, we just did a video for Meat and Marriage. Tom and I produce a video once a week, and we just did one a couple weeks ago talking about the emotional aspect of going through an entire lifestyle change where you literally start feeding your body something that is so anti-establishment and so out of the box and so incredibly healing that in and of itself creates a crisis. Yes, it's a good crisis, arguably very good. And it is huge for us to adapt to that. So there is a lot of emotional upset that happens even when we find something that's this amazing. And it does bring up, like Drina talked about, when we store trauma in our tissues, in our bodies. I had a throat issue with my first marriage because I was not allowed, or at least I very much believed I was not allowed, because I'd get hit if I did, to speak my mind. And I developed, by the end of that 11 years with this man, I was getting strep throat like once a week. It was just not a once a week, once a month. Sorry, once a month. So it became, strep throat was just a thing I thought you got when you're in your late 20s. I just thought I never got strep throat again. Once I was out of that relationship and I was in a loving relationship where I was allowed to speak my truth and encouraged to, it took that trauma, pulled it out of me. It's never had it again. So it's even paying attention. I've got layers of healing happening. I've got some seborrheic dermatitis that's cropped back up after 10 years. I had a huge outbreak for like a year and a half that had to do with a whole bunch of issues and autoimmune things. 10 years ago, it came back up and it's minor and I can kind of keep it concealed, but my body's healing through this deep layer of whatever junk from an autoimmune issue that's 10 years old. Earlier in my carnivore journey, I had an eyeball issue that happened 5 years ago that resurfaced at a smaller level to work its way out. But your mind does the same thing, and it's your mind and body are the same thing. So the physical things we're doing to nourish our bodies and the emotional things we're doing or the mental things we're doing, our thoughts and our feelings and our bodies, it's all inseparable. We have these ideas where we have a mental health professional and then we have an MD doctor and then we have the specialties within all of that. It becomes so disjointed and we think we need a separate official person outside of us to tell us for each problem, but the problems are all the same thing. So it doesn't matter where you start, it's like roots of a tree. It all connects to each other.
I like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had a comment in Meat Sisters. Someone mentioned we know that fat cells can store away toxins, but do they also store away emotional trauma? It's widely theorized that some people put on fat as sort of emotional protection. So when you lose fat, you could also be releasing emotional traumas that were stored in those cells at the time in your life that you put on that extra fat. What are your thoughts about that? Like, how does that sort of resonate with you? And
I think there could be some truth in that, because I think sometimes people, I think when especially some women who have had some intense physical and sexual abuse traumas, and even especially from a young age, it came up once when I was in my own talk therapy a while back, and that particular therapist is also a very spiritual woman and theta healer practitioner. She's the one who actually learnt my theta healing from. And she kind of got the sense that I was actually in a bigger body and allowed myself to stay big it's almost like a defense mechanism. Like, if I'm big, I'm more intimidating. And then, if I'm not weak and small and frail, I'm less easy to, power over, kind of a thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I'm bigger. So yeah, I think sometimes you can sort of explore that idea a bit more, but I wouldn't get too worried about, whether the fat's there as like a, trauma thing or not. But I would just always sort of be looking at what specifically is coming up and how you can deal with that, both how you're nourishing yourself, but then also, as we've been talking about, the mind stuff as well. Like, what feelings and emotions are you is coming up for you when you feel into that. And you could probably even just sit there and do it as like a little mindfulness thing for yourself, just intuitively asking yourself, like, what's sort of the truth around this aspect and for my body, and why I might be holding on to fat. Maybe it should already be, letting go. But we also know that with the carnivore way of eating, that when you are really nutritionally topped up, we know for some women it can take a couple of years of being very consistently carnivore before their body really lets go of the excess fat. So don't get too caught up in it, because you don't want to be going round and round in your head and, like, stressed up over it. But yeah, sometimes just a little gentle exploration might, intuitive exploration with yourself might start to reveal a bit more about how that might be a truth for you or reality for you. But and get some help around it too if you need to find your own way through that, but without like being by yourself. Like, find a way to sort of talk it out, or, you know, I mean, there's lots of different types of therapies out there, whether it's untherapy or, you know, other things, because different things work for different people. So this is where talking about it can be helpful, and people mentioning in these sort of things that we've set up in the group, especially in the mindset element, you know, if there's something that you have found that helps around that aspect of it, then yeah, please share it, because someone else might benefit from hearing about it. Yeah.
I totally agree. And there's a lot of like trauma-informed therapies now. There's somatic healing, which is that you feel things in your body, even deep tissue massage. I've done, and I use my healing protocol I'm going to teach on the 15th of May. But there's like, you'll find knots in your body. You'll find these pain points that you can't explain. And maybe you cry and it releases. Like, it's just bizarre when you really start to get into it. But I mean, Tom and I have, because we've done this up and down roller coaster of losing weight and gaining weight, we kind of discovered what we think, Lindy, is true about your body sort of locking in these different layers of the fat that you put on. Because it's even like, you know, we have our set weights where you like reach a plateau. Like Tom has noticed, he's lost 140 pounds in the 11 months he's been doing carnivore, but he'll stall out and he'll think back, okay, what years of my life was I going through this? And even some of the injuries he had during that phase of his life, even some of the stressors, you know, which wife it was, I'm his third wife and the best one, but you know, what other, you know, family dramas he was going through. And it's like, some of those symptoms are showing up during that phase over this past almost year now. So I think there is some, you know, there's definitely maybe some merit to that. But I love what Drina said. There is no benefit to fixating on that and thinking, well, let's try to get ahead of it, or let's try to hack it and get around that because we don't want to have to, or maybe we're holding up our weight, or we want to push past that plateau. Nay. I love what Lindy always says, like, you are on this level of healing with this size and shape and the amount of water you're retaining and the amount of fat you still have, because your body needs all of that to do the healing that it is prioritizing. Like it was before I even found carnivore, I had this moment of clarity right around when I was starting in this whole perimenopausal craziness. And I was like, my body is the boss here. I can no longer try to force my body to look a certain way, to give up weight on my schedule because I have a wedding next year that I want to impress some rando, you know, like, no, my body is the queen. She gets to pick. And the more I love her into that healing, the faster it will go. But I can't look at it as a race, because the second I do, now I'm back in that managerial mode. Now I'm ignoring all of the signs that tell me what I actually need, or what my inner guide is actually guiding me toward. I won't hear any of that. And then I will end up in those cravings and those old patterns, because I can't learn new stuff with old information. So
True.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Very good. I'll just say thank you to Mary. It looks like someone's got a new member. So thank you for becoming a member. Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about, or any other questions before we head off? It's probably getting late there, isn't it?
It's 11.
11 p.m. for you.
I've usually already been asleep for 2 hours, but I'm so glad. I hope if we make this a regular thing, we can find a time that's just a little less late for me. But this has been amazing. And I really wish Emily could have made it the entire time, but at least she got to show her face right at the beginning. But this, I think, is part of why Meat Sisters is so cool, because we have, like Drina's talking about, like manifesting the right people for the right vibe, to just be able to help create a space where women can feel supported and feel like they're not crazy wanting to do this very out of the norm, you know, off the beaten path sort of way, which is becoming more and more normal. And when you're in a group that's got, you know, 1,400 people in it, it feels a lot more normal. Or if you're in Steak and Butter Gang or whatever other carnivore community, like, like Drina said, find support, make that a priority for you in the same way you would find support for a small child that needed guidance or help or whatever. Like, that's your inner child is new to this, and you want them to learn something new that allows them to circumvent all that managerial programming that says we weigh every moment and we only are as good as the size that, you know, we can squeeze into. Like, we gotta have a new way of doing things, and part of that is a new group of people, a new type of community that literally does show up in an open-hearted way and give from our hearts because we're so passionate about helping others into this freedom that we all are experiencing for ourselves.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, Annalise.
Cool. Oh, we've just popped the Meat Sisters Facebook group in the chat. So if you'd love to join us, we hope to see you there. And thank you both for your time today. And we'll
Awesome.
catch you again soon.
Love
All right.
you. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye.